Masz odwagę powiedzieć żono i stałem tam, gdzie stało z domu.
Cześć, witajcie. Dzisiaj omówimy sobie maturę z angielskiego poziom dwujęzyczny, formuła 2023. Matura odbyła się wczoraj o godzinie 9. Po godzinie 14 został opublikowany formularz z poziomu rozszerzonego. Natomiast formularz dwujęzyczny udało mi się dostać dopiero dzisiaj, dzień później, rano, no bo nie dało się go po prostu znaleźć. No nie wpadli na to, żeby go umieścić szybciej. No ale sobie omówimy, zobaczymy, jakie są zadania. Oczywiście listeningu nie jestem w stanie z Wami zrobić, ponieważ musiałbym dołączyć tutaj pliki z nagraniami listeningu, a prawo autorskie zabrania tego, więc niestety nie mogę tego zrobić. Szkoda bardzo. Ja poziomu dwujęzycznego nie zdawałem, ponieważ dopiero w roku 2015 poziom dwujęzyczny został dopuszczony dla wszystkich maturzystów. W latach 2005-2014 poziom dwujęzyczny był tylko dla uczniów klas dwujęzycznych. Więc najwyższy poziom, jaki mogłem zdawać, to był rozszerzony i zdawałem rozszerzony i ustnie, i pisemnie, a dwujęzycznego niestety nie mogłem. Dlaczego bardzo żałuję, no ale niestety takie były przepisy. No i tutaj sobie matura na poziomie dwujęzycznym trwała 3 godziny, na poziomie rozszerzonym 2,5, na dwujęzycznym 3 godziny i przejdziemy do zadania pierwszego zaraz za listeningiem. Listening. Zadanie trzecie listening. I zadanie czwarte już nie listening. Zadanie z testem. Przeczytamy, omówimy sobie, jakie są pytania. Tak, pokrótce, na szybkości. Read two tests about photography. Do test for 8. Mamy 2 testy na temat fotografii. Test 1. Can photography be a threat to nature? Nature photography is a wonderful way to share the beauty of the natural world with others who don't have the opportunity to see a given subject firsthand. An obvious benefit of the genre is that it raises awareness about and generates empathy for endangered flora and fauna. But too much love can be a bad thing if landscapes are trampled and wildlife is threatened. And all because of the compulsion that many people feel to leave their footprint on the world. Przewiniemy na dół. The use of photography as a conservation tool dates back as far as photography itself. William Henry Jackson, photos from his travels to survey the American West, convinced the United States Congress to create Yellowstone National Park in 1872. This in turn sparked a movement to set aside a number of particularly scenic places as national parks. Ansel Adams carried the torch toward a century later by opening the eyes of millions to the splendor of many western landscapes. More recently, wildlife photographers have got up close and personal with wild animals, so that the rest of us can appreciate the beauty while staying out of harm's way. But some say that there is a dark side of all this exposure of wild and the natural. In a provocative essay, the activist Bill McCarben argues that the world has enough wildlife photography and that continuing to invade the lives of animal subjects, given the vast superfluity of images already available, is counterproductive in terms of preserving biodiversity. He also decries that distorted view of the world that wildlife photographers portray. How can whooping cranes be endangered when you have seen 1,000 images of them, 10 times more images than the actually whooping cranes left in the wild? He asks. Most wildlife photographers, myself included, take issue with McCarben's view, feeling that it is not the number of photographs that matters the most, but rather the fact that wildlife photographers fail to reflect the natural diversity and instead draw people's attention to select celebrity species. And in today's world, when the average holiday maker with a digital camera is able to capture their own version of that iconic photo they have seen so many times in magazines, it might be folly to hope people won't love a spot or a species to death. In the US, some national parks have begun to limit the number of visitors at specific photo-friendly spots to make sure that trails don't get inadvertently widened and native vegetation trampled. Take, for example, the sad plight of highly elusive nocturnal primates called lorises, which lives in southern India. Local people cut down trees and use bright light and star taxis to capture the animal, enable well-heeled visiting photographers to take the perfect photos of the cute white-eyed creatures. Animals are brought into the village where they are held in captivity for days. Once the shoot is completed, they are usually released far from nature's sight and away from the natural habitat, which means that not all of them manage to make it home. What the nature photographers of the world, amateur and pros alike, agrees on is that they want the subject matter to live on, being respectful of landscape and wildlife in the quest to get the ideal shot is all that's needed to keep nature photography from becoming a scourge on the environment. For questions 4144, choose the answer that best matches the text and settle the appropriate letter, czyli musimy w każdym zadaniu zaznaczyć jedną odpowiedź. In the second paragraph, the author claims that wildlife photography, czyli musimy się cofnąć do drugiego paragrafu, że pokazuje piękno przyrody. Allowed many places to be protected from the excessive number of tourists, raised awareness that tourists are a threat to animal habitat. Jeszcze raz muszę się cofnąć, bo to końcówka jest ważna. I tu będzie D. Gave birth to an idea of protecting places of natural beauty. 3.2. Bill McKibben criticized wildlife photography on the grounds that photographers underestimate the specific importance of some species. It ignores biodiversity with presenting solely the celebrity species. The overall abundance of photographers might give a misleading impression. I teraz trzeba się cofnąć. Odpowiedź C. An overabundance of photographs might give a misleading impressions. The examples of lorries is used in the text to show that taking photos in human-created settings can pose a threat to animal well-being. What is the central claim put forward by the authors of the article? The welfare of wildlife should be the primary concern of photographers. Professional photographers should strive for excellence in the art form. Amateur photographers should focus on species which are on the brink of extinction. Wildlife photographers shouldn't resolve their disputes in public. Odpowiedź A. The welfare of wildlife should be the primary concern of photographers. Text 2. A professional photographer. Your work sounds interesting. Francesca looked across the table at Robert McCain. It is I like it at all, she said. I like the road and I like making pictures. She noticed that he'd been making pictures. You make pictures, not take them? Yes, at least that's how I think of it. There's a difference between Zante snapshotters and someone who does it for a living. When I'm finished with that bridge we saw today, it won't look quite like you expect. I will have made it into something of my own. By my choice of lens, or camera angle, or the general composition, and most likely by some combination of all of these tools. National Geographic, which I am currently working for, has its own style and demands, but I don't always conform to the editor's thesis. In fact, quite often I don't, and that bothers them, even though they still decide what goes in and what gets left out. I guess they know their leadership, but I wish they would take a few more chances now and then. That's the problem with earning and living through an art form. We're always dealing with markets, which are designed to suit average tastes. That's where the numbers are. That's the reality, I guess. But as I said, I can become pretty confirming. They let me keep the shots they don't use, so at least I have my own private files of stuff that I like. And once in a while I get the chance to write an article for another magazine or on a place I've been to and add some pictures we are too daring for a status of National Geographic. One day I'm going to write an essay called The Virtues of Amateurism for all of those people who wish they earned their living in the arts. The market kills more artistic passion than anything else does. Readers want safety, and magazines and manufacturers provide them with what they want. They give them homogeneity, give them the familiar and comfortable, and they don't challenge readers in any way. Profit and subscriptions and the rest of the stuff dominated it. Wherever I hear the words market or consumers, I get this grotesque image in my mind of a fat little man in beige Bermuda shorts and a Hawaiian shirt and a straw hat with a beer can openers dangling from it, clashing fists of dollars. Adapted from The Bridges of Madison County by Robert James Waller. Based on text, complete the sentence for 5248. Na podstawie tekstu numer 2 mamy tutaj sobie uzupełnić te zdania. Jedziemy dalej. Task 5. Read the article. 4 paragraphs have been removed from text. Complete each gap with a paragraph which fits best and put the appropriate letter. There's one paragraph which you don't need to use. How a city can save its wildlife. The wildlife and green spaces in our cities, towns, and other built-up areas matter because as a nation we are increasingly being told that we are becoming disconnected from nature, and this is a negative effect in our breaths. Besides, who doesn't get a food feeling from hearing a little bird chirping away, spotting bright flowers in a pit, or coming across the signs on the outdoor while taking a walk along the river? London jest prime. Dobra, to tutaj musimy się dodać, co będzie pasowało. An intention to encourage people to wildlife, for example, by using swift bricks in new homes and making holes in fences and edges. People have to think of it as a set of recommended practices that could naturally connect open spaces and gardens. It's a long-term vision that might be achieved through lots of small individual actions. Sorry, Tatar przeziębienie. London is a prime example of what is at stake in this battle between urban development and nature. With its population over 8.6 million, Britain's capital has more than 13,000 recorded species. According to the director of London Wildlife Trust, Matthew Frith, is the most species diverse region in the UK. This is a reflection to the city's millions of gardens and its status as an international trading city, which has made it one of Britain's main points of entry for new species from elsewhere in the world. Furthermore, urban peregrine falcons are on the rise. Rarely spotted woodpeckers and jays are easily found in London, and several species of deer are making their presence now. The River Thames is now home to over 125 species of fish after a major clean-up since the 1950s. There have also been upswings in some other species which are either occupying new niches or recovering from previous loves. One solution lies in an interesting proposal for Greater London to be designed as a national park city, an idea of Frith that is rapidly gaining support in the capital. This would mean London become a new kind of urban national park. As a result, London would be a semi-protected area with all of the public activities and conservative efforts take part in a traditional national park, but in an urban environment, which includes people's homes, workplaces, and gardens. 5.4. This is a massive shift in the approach to wildlife, which should involve all citizens. The London Wildlife Trust proposal to design London as a national park city will help to raise awareness among the population and cultivation more sensitive approaches to the way that we design and manage the city. Though it will not solve all problems that affect nature in London, it needs to add value to the collective efforts to conserve London's nature for decades and not merely duplicate these efforts, say Mr. Frith. No bardzo ciekawe podejście do ochrony przyrody na terenach miejskich, bardzo fajne, ciekawe. Jedziemy do następnego, mam to co mówiłem. Read the text. For a question 6.1.6.4, choose the appropriate paragraph and write the corresponding letter AE. One paragraph does not match any of the questions. No, czyli musimy wpisać sobie tutaj literki do. In which paragraph does the author discuss a current change in attitude towards wearing wings in the chat room? Mention the historical period when wings become mandatory in English chat rooms. Points to the wearing of wings as a sign of authority and impartiality in the chat room. Refer to the publication which has a significant influence on the entire of English lawyers. Why are wings worn in English courts? Wigs, not wings, wigs. In the traditional courtroom dress of English judges and barristers, lawyers who represent the defense or prosecution in the higher court of law. Looks as if it came straight from the Middle Ages. Wigs, peruki. Actually, it was much later. In 1625, an academic paper entitled "The Disclosure on Robes and Apparel" appeared in print. It paved the way for the introduction of the distinct regulation for the wearing of robes and wings for different purposes in the courtroom. No, to the robes and wings mają odpowiednie zastosowanie. Both robes and wigs became emblematic of anonymity, the visual emphasizing the supremacy of the law and distancing the wearer from personal involvement. Distinction in the style of wigs have significant. A judge's wig differs from that of the barrister in that it is more ornate. Tu mamy, nie tylko mamy kwestie peruek, tu mamy jeszcze kwestie właśnie tych właśnie ubrań takich. I że sędziowskie są bardziej dystyngowane od obrońcy i oskarżyciela, which reflects to the judge's higher status. Most wigs used in a court are made according to an age-old tradition of styling, sewing, and gluing. Although wigs may have fallen out of men's fashions over the centuries, when they first made their appearance, they were part and parcel of being a well-dressed professional. But why did powered wigs come into fashion in the first place? Why top one's head with an itchy, sweat-inducing mass of artificial curls? Professor Maria Harvard points out in the King's Clothing Choices that when it comes to trendsetters, no one has a greater influence on the wearing of wigs than Louis XIV of France. During his reign, the Sun King disguised his prematurely balding scalp by wearing a wig. In doing so, he started a trend that was widely followed by the European upper and middle classes. Although those who wishes to remain in good social standing were quick to adopt the practice of wearing wigs, English courtrooms were slower to act. Judicial portraits from that time still show a natural no-wig look. In the late Stuart era, however, full shoulder-length wigs became part of the requisite attire for judges and barristers during the trial. Over time, wheels fell out of the fashion within society as a whole. By the early 19th century, there were only a few, namely bishops, coachmen, and those in the legal profession. In 2007, however, their desire to maintain formality and pay homage to legal history was changed. A case proposing changes to the traditional dress code was brought to court and was successful. The Lord Chief Justice Baron Phillips stated that wigs would no longer be worn during civil or family cases. Wigs are still worn during criminal trials, but some want the tradition to be fully abandoned. A growing number of lawyers are comparing wigs and robes to the suits of armor worn by bygone days by knights, and believe that the England court should be more focused on important issue and not on what officials are wearing. Ciekawe. Bardzo ciekawe. Read the text for a question 7175. Choose the word or phrase which fits best into the depth. Choose the appropriate letter. Power generating tiles. What would believe that while people were making their way to attend an Olympics in London in 2012, they were also producing renewable energy. As a result, they to prepare the renewable power. Around 1 million or so visitors aligned at West Ham Underground Station to get the games. Access via the tiled waterway. Using the heritage technology, which changed that changed kinetic energy into electricity. The waterway lights were powered by uniquely original source footsteps. Lawrence Campbell Cook looked from behind the technology, dreamed up the turning his footsteps into power when he worked at Loughborough University. The young inventor told that his ration food was harvesting. How does it work? The tile surface flashes about 5 mm. Christianity energy is used to produce an average of 6 watts per footstep. During the 2 weeks of games, the tiles generated 20 kilowatt hours or 72 million joules. 20 kilowatt hours, which provided the energy to keep the waterway lights illuminated at the full power through the night and a half power during the day, with plenty of backup energy to spare. Campbell Cook sees renewable energy technology as a potential alternative to solar, which is difficult to use indoors or in built-up urban areas. Ciekawe. Dodatkowe źródło odnawialnej energii na takich trawnikach. No fajnie. Task test. Read the text. For question 8184, use the word given in the base to the form of word that's in the text must be written correct in both grammar and spelling. The future of winter sports and recreation. Since 1949, nearly 80% of weather stations across the continuous 48 states in the US have recorded an increase in winter precipitation falling as rain instead of snow. With future projected temperature rises, winter sports may experience a decline for ski resorts in the Northwest to remain viable. They require the loan of an average ski resort to be at least 100 days. Mi się to przesunęło. Dobra, muszę cofnąć. Projections indicate that the sustain of most regions in the region will be in question by the end of the century, as they will be required to produce more electricity. Projections indicate that the sustain of most resources, the snowpack has always been an resisted attraction for the hikers who visit national parks and a huge number every winter, but the trees in snowpack depth have become obsolete since 1955, although currently hikers are still able to reach snow-capped mountains and glaciers. As winters become warmer, the snowpack on the top of the mountains and the glaciers will will presume to disappear. Presume to disappear. Trudniejsze, ale też fajne. For questions 91, 95, complete the second sentence so that it is similar in the meaning as positive to the first sentence and is correct in both grammar and spelling. Use the word given. Don't change the word given. Use up to 5 words, including the word given. I don't like people slapping me on the back when they greet me. I object to slapping me the back when people greet me. Mr. Peterson was given a medal for his bravery during the First World War. Mr. Peterson received a medal which recognized his bravery during the First World War. Kate didn't seem anxious, even thought she was giving the speech without any notes. Kate showed no sign of anxious. No sign of anxious, even when she was giving the speech without any notes. My friend said that I could use his apartment at any time. My friend said his apartment is disposed to me wherever I wanted. We avoided getting into troubles because John speaks the local dialect fluently. If John didn't speak the local dialect, we would get into trouble. We would. Tu mamy conditional would. Bardzo ważna rzecz. Task 10, czyli mamy wypracowanie. Choose one of the topics below and write a composition following the conversation of the genre indicated in the topic. Use between 300 and 350 words. I mamy 2 do wyboru. Pierwsze, czy korzystanie z cateringu dietetycznego polegającego na dostarczaniu klientowi posiłków przygotowanych we współpracy z profesjonalnymi dietetykami to dobry pomysł. Napisz rozprawkę, w której przedstawisz swoją opinię na ten temat, odnosząc się do następujących aspektów: zdrowie, koszty, ekologia. Drugie. Ostatnio przeczytałeś wywiad ze znaną osobą, z którego wynikało, że sukces osiąga się dzięki determinacji, pracowitości i szczęściu. Napisz artykuł, w którym przedstawisz swój pogląd na ten temat, odnosząc się do wpływu każdego z tych 3 czynników wskazanych w wywiadzie na osiągnięcie sukcesu. No dobra. Pokrótce, jeżeli bym wybrał temat pierwszy, czyli rozprawkę na temat korzystania z cateringu dietetycznego, to mógłbym napisać coś takiego. For many years, people want to take some diet to lose a weight. That's a problem because when we are young, we have a lot of energy, we do a lot of exercise, and there's no problem. We eat, but we are not getting fat. When we are not over 20, the problem starts because we don't use that energy. We eat the same as when we are very younger, but we don't consume that energies. The problem is that we don't have enough sport activities, we don't do enough sports, we sit in a car, we sit in an office, we don't work, we drive, but we eat the same, so we are getting fatter and fatter, and we have a problem with overweight. Then there are many ways of making diet. We can reach some diet on internet and prepare food, but nowadays most people don't have a time to make their food at home, so that's a problem to organize a diet. Many companies sell a diet catering, which means that you can order for the whole month and a diet box for you. So the delivery will take a special box each day to you, and you will have a fresh food for each day. You just need to put it into microwave, or sometimes even not. The thing is that we don't need to cook, but we have this diet catering. So we just need to follow the instructions, follow the manual to reach our target. That's of course good for our health, because it is easier to lose weight, feel good. We just need a little exercise, not too much, to stay in a good condition. Of course, this is more expensive than when you prepare a food at home, because you can go to a local cheap market like Asda or Tesco, buy their food and prepare it. This it would be much cheaper. But sometimes when we have money but we don't have a time, the only way to go on a diet is to order diet catering. And about an ecology, it depends how we look on that. From one side, there's a boats, there's a plastic, there's a paper which is used to pack your food. So we need some forest, we need a lot of plastic, a lot of things to pay that. From other side, when you cook at home, you lose also a lot of energy because you use electricity or gas. You need to spend a lot of time when you can water in that time. You don't have to spend it in the kitchen, and then you use a lot of energy to prepare it. But you prepare more than for one person, and if you live alone, there's a problem because you need to eat it for a few days, or you will waste it. That's a big problem because you prepare more because it's hard to buy enough carrot, enough potato just to make a dinner for one day for one person. Usually you make for two or three people, and if you live alone you have for 2 or 3 days. That's a problem. But if you make in a factory a lot of potatoes for 1 million portions, for 1 million items, for 1 million pieces of food, that's much easier because you can calculate for so many million items, and then you just buy you order diet catering which is for 30 days, for 1 month, or 31 days, for 1 month, and then you have so many grams, so many calories which you need for each day, and you don't buy too much. So from my point of view, the ecology is more for than against diet catering. No, coś takiego można byłoby napisać. A w pytaniu, a jeżeli wybierze się temat drugi, ostatnio przeczytałem wywiad z znaną osobą, że dosyć determinacji, pracowitości i szczęściu. Few days ago I've read an article. It was an interview with one of the famous person, and he told me how he reached success. He was born in 1950s as a boomer, but he wanted to make a world more socialized, more integrated, using the technology. He created MS-DOS, he created Windows, and he looked on the internet not as a network to communicate only academic institutions, but also to communicate between the people. And what was the reason that everyone was talking about analog world? This was in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s. There was an analog world. In the 1990s, we were moving from analog world to a digital world, and after 2000, 2001, we have strictly digital world. Then he was mostly one of the few people who think about that idea. Bill Gates, Steve Allen, Steve Wozniak, and Steve Jobs. They created the idea that technology can change the world, and the technology changed the world. They was determined, they worked hard, and I think they were born in a good times, in a good era, because they were born in the West, for example, they lived in the US, so it was a good country that in that time to make a lot of new technology, a lot of new idea. If they would be born in Soviet Union or Eastern Europe, it would be like in the movie Tetris. Some engineers created something, but they were not owner of that. They were the country, the Soviet Union was the owner of that because they were a communism. And that's the difference between communism and capitalism. In capitalism, when you create something, you are the owner. In communism, when you create something, the country is the owner, or party is the owner. So we need to. So that's about the luck. Luck to be born in the right place, in the right time, a lot of work and determination. From my point of view, this is a good description how to achieve success in the business, especially if you create your own business, new business, you are just after a high school, you want to create something. That's a good way how to achieve the success. No, takie coś bym napisał przy temacie numer 2. Oczywiście to można bardziej rozwinąć. To było tylko takie skrótowe nakreślenie Wam tematu, jak to można napisać, jak to można zrobić. Moim zdaniem ten poziom jest bardzo fajny. Szkoda, że ja nie mogłem go zdawać, bo naprawdę uważam, że poziom dwujęzyczny jest dużo ciekawszy od rozszerzonego, bo można dużo ciekawych rzeczy napisać w tym wypracowaniu i bardziej się kwieciście rozwinąć. A ja Was żegnam i jak widzicie, matura to bzdura. Tylko język polski i matematyka sprawiają trudności, a angielski to naprawdę, jeżeli jesteście dobrzy z angielskiego, jeżeli kochacie ten język, jeżeli jesteście całym sercem za angielskim, to angielski nie będzie problemem. Gorzej, jeżeli Wam jakoś tam idzie słabo, no to już będzie gorzej, ale jeżeli czujecie ten język, jeżeli kochacie ten język, to na pewno będzie wszystko bardzo dobrze.
Od kobiety chciałbyś zniewolić, pozbawić chciałbyś niewolnej woli.